There are many disadvantages with using the traditional golf swing, and I point them out often. The swing is too difficult to execute consistently. It hurts the body. It ignores the natural geometry of the anatomy. It's also limiting in that it creates a lot of spin. The stock ball flight is a fade. A fade is a weaker shot than a draw. So there's many limitations, and I can go on. And in fact, if you tried the traditional swing, you probably are very familiar with those limitations because of what it's done for your game. Well, another limitation is this. In the traditional swing, making a quarter or a half or a three-quarter swing is actually quite difficult. And the reason why is because of this. One, you have a moving center. So once you have a moving center, that becomes very difficult to execute something consistently, regardless of the length of the swing, a quarter, a half, or a full swing. But also two, in order to execute the traditional swing, you're supposed to execute a series of movements. Well, those series of movements require you, and this is a big term in the traditional golf instruction, finish your backswing. So you have to finish your backswing if you're going to do all the things that are required in the traditional swing, like shifting your weight and all the nonsense that occurs. So given that, making quarter or half or three-quarter swings is really difficult. And that's why you see PGA Tour pros don't really do that. They do other things to vary the lengths of their shots. And it usually comes down to terms like a punch or a sawed off or an easy, I'm saying a punch 9-iron or sawed off 9-iron, an easy 9-iron. Those are all, although they help the PGA Tour pro to vary his shots, I still think that it's very limiting. Now, in the swing that I teach, because we stay still, it becomes very easy to vary the length of your swing. Because first off, we don't have to complete a series of movements in the backswing. All I need to do is stay still from a proper setup position. So if I take the club back this far, if I take the club back this far, I'm still technically correct. I'm not needing to do anything like in the traditional swing where you have to shift your weight and do all that nonsense. I mean, I grew up learning the traditional swing. I'm very familiar with it. I can execute the traditional swing just fine. It's just, it produces a weak shot and it produces a very limiting game. So given that we stay still and our focus just goes into making sure that your weight stays still, it's very easy to have the awareness. In traditional golf, I say, they require you to use all of your athleticism just to execute the swing. Well, in the swing that I teach, we're just staying still. So athleticism isn't even being really tapped into during the stock swing. That allows us the awareness and the ability to use our athleticism to vary the length of the swing. So in the school, I teach that I want the standard thing that I start you with is a quarter, a half, and a three-quarter, and then a full swing. I break the swing down into tenths. I'm a pro. If you're a low handicapper, I suggest that you try to break the swing down into tenths also. But the important part that I want to bring up right now is during this lockdown, you can start to train your quarter, your half, your three-quarter, and your full swings, because in order to create a quarter and a half and a three-quarter swing, it's personal to you. You can call a quarter red. You can call the quarter Argentina. It doesn't matter. It's something that you have a personal relationship to. It's not about 25%. It's not about trying to get to 9 o'clock with your club. Instead, that is too difficult. We all have a very good sense for small, medium, large. Regardless of your athletic ability, regardless of how much golf you've played, I've seen it, that even the most beginner of golfer has a sense for small, medium, large. So what you need to start to do is tap into that sense of small, medium, and large, or quarter, half, three-quarter, and full, or fill in the gaps between there. The more shots that you have, the more swings that you can consistently make, that means the more shots you have and the more answers you have when you're playing the game. So during this time, I suggest if you're only hitting into a net, that's fine, because there's two components to developing what I call is your yardage card. It's something that all my students learn in the school. First component is developing and defining your sense for what is a quarter, what is a half, what is a size 1, what is a size 2. That's for me, size 1 through 10. And then from there, you start to record the yardages only off of your solid, tight draws. If you hit the shot properly, then you get a chance to record that yardage, and you can start to relate your sense for a quarter swing to a specific yardage. And I ask all my students to write it down, and we all carry a yardage card in our back pocket that essentially is just like cheating, because we have this data now that we can anticipate what type of swing I need to make in order to hit the ball 62 yards. You know, it's really a powerful instrument when you can develop and have a yardage card. But there's two elements in developing that yardage card. One is defining the length of your swing. The other is recording your yardages. Well, right now, even if you're just hitting into a net, even if you're just using foam balls, even if you're not even hitting balls, but you have the opportunity to make a swing in your yard or in your house, you can start to define what is a quarter, what is a half, what is 3/4 to you. It's a very personal experience. And look, if your quarter swing happens to go all the way up here, that's fine, just as long as your half goes a little farther, your 3/4 goes a little farther, and your full goes a little farther. Now you have 4 shots. Regardless of what you want to call the lengths, just as long as it's your personal relationship to creating it, then it's something that you could repeat and you can consistently use on the course. And I tell you, there's so many times where I've played tournaments and I'm looking at a guy and he's trying to feel what it feels like to hit it 134 yards. And I'm looking at my yardage card and I got 10 different options for how I can hit it 134 yards because I've built that into my yardage card and I've developed that awareness to being able to create those shots. So take the time now to start to define the length of your swing. Don't worry about how far they go. Just start to get comfortable with, yeah, this is a quarter for me. Yeah, that's a half for me. Okay, there's 3/4, right? And as you do that, you're going to start to attach to, and this is a very important term, define the lengths of your swing. You start to attach to these different lengths so that you can define them and then you can use them. Now, in my school, it's one of the ways that we all build our fundamentals. So if you want to watch me execute how to build your yardage card, sign up for the school. If you're already a member, just go into the classes and look for how to build my yardage card. If you're not a member, take the opportunity right now to start to develop more shots. Sign up for the school, and you're going to find that not only will you hit the ball better and it's easier to perform the swing that we are making because we're just keeping our weight still, but you're also going to find that you get to build a lot of extra shots because you don't have to worry about all the minutia that happens in the traditional swing with all the movements and the weight shifting. Instead, you get to focus on staying still. And when you focus on staying still, it's very easy to become aware of different length swings. And all those different length swings produce different trajectories, different spins, and different yardages. And once you accumulate all that data into a yardage card, you get to go to a course. And when you see 156 yards, you look at your yardage card and you say, oh, I have a few different ways that I could play this shot effectively. You might have a 155, a 157, a 153 on your card, but those are all shots that are going to get you awfully close to the pin. And then if you can assess the situation, because how I use the yardage card is it's relative to where the pin position is, it's relative to what kind of spin I want to have on the shot, which is then often related to whether or not it's windy. And now you have basically an arsenal to take on 153 yards instead of just guessing.